She expected an inheritance from my late husband, so I gave her exactly what she deserved. 2 years ago, I lost my husband. He was a kind, hardworking remodeler, the kind of man who believed in giving people chances, even when they hadn't earned them. He had a big heart and calloused hands, always juggling multiple renovation projects with a rotating list of subcontractors and helpers. One of those helpers for a short but memorable time was Kiki, the adult daughter of my oldest friend, Ami. I'd known Ami for over 4 decades, and through her, I'd watched Kiki grow from a kid with promise into, well, a walking disaster with an entitled streak a mile wide. When my husband started hiring Kiki for odd jobs, it wasn't because she was the best or most qualified. It was because he felt sorry for her, and because Ami asked. Kiki would tag along for bigger projects, grouting tile, hauling boards, and occasionally being more of a headache than a help. And in classic Kiki fashion, she started borrowing tools. The first was small, a CD player she wanted to use while painting a room. Then it escalated. Channel locks, a winch and come along, then a chainsaw, a table saw, a Greco cart paint sprayer worth over $1,200, and an air compressor with a nail gun. Every item was returned either in pieces or not at all, always after weeks of excuses or frantic texts about how she just needed it a little longer. By the time my husband caught her red-handed stealing from a client's garage, yes, stealing, he'd had enough. He publicly kicked her off the job and never allowed her back on another. That was 2 years before he died, after a long, painful 8-year illness. Throughout his final years, we had countless conversations about what to do with his tools, his memories, his legacy. He'd hand over a saw or a wrench and say, make sure this goes to someone who'll use it right. Some tools he gifted to close friends before he passed. Others he left in our shed, now mine. What he never said, not once, was anything about giving Kiki anything. So imagine my shock when, a year after his passing, I stopped by Ami's for coffee and Kiki was there. She looked me dead in the eyes and said she was there to collect her promised inheritance. I laughed. I thought she was joking, but no, she insisted my husband had told her she'd be getting something good. I told her point blank that he never promised her a damn thing, especially not after she cost him close to $5,000 in destroyed equipment and burned bridges. Ami backed me up. She reminded Kiki that not only did my husband stop lending her tools, but that he stopped speaking to her after the theft incident. Still, Kiki pouted, whined, and threw a fit, demanding to know what she was getting. And that's when I had a wonderfully petty, absolutely perfect idea. Back home, I stood in my tool shed looking at the sad pile of junk Kiki had returned over the years. Half-sawed wood stuck in the table saw blade, the air compressor missing hoses and pressure gauges, the paint sprayer once brand new, crusted over and unusable, all of it gathering dust and taking up space I wanted back. So I called Ami and asked if she'd like to help me deliver Kiki's inheritance. The next afternoon, we backed up Ami's car to my shed and loaded every busted tool, every broken part, and the CD player with the skipping disc tray into the trunk. Then we drove to Kiki's place and rang the bell. Kiki opened the door, expecting some sentimental hand-me-down or maybe something shiny and new from the hardware store. Instead, she saw 2 women carrying box after box of junk up her stairs and onto her porch. She stared in disbelief. What am I supposed to do with all this? She asked, confused and getting angrier by the second. I looked her square in the face and said, the same thing your uncle was supposed to do with it when you brought it back like this. Congratulations on your inheritance. Ami couldn't stop laughing. I waved goodbye and left her there on the porch surrounded by her legacy. Snapped cords, stripped screws, and half a decade of neglect. I went home and swept out my shed, smiling with each push of the broom, feeling lighter than I had in months. And I'll tell you what, I never saw another request from Kiki.